through 75 counties and hundreds of investigations, from the most violent crimes to petty infractions. This is Arkansas Crime Watch with Kevin Kelly.
The highly anticipated trial of a Dallas police officer who fatally shot a Harding University graduate is well underway. Good evening and thanks for watching Arkansas Crime Watch on Fox16.com. I'm Kevin Kelly. Amber Geiger shot and killed Botham Jean on September 6, 2018. The jury is now deciding if she's guilty of murder, a lesser offense such as manslaughter, or no crime at all. On Friday, an emotional Geiger was put on the stand, telling the jury she never wanted to take an innocent person's life. Another compelling moment this week when prosecutors played body cam video shortly after the shooting that took Botham Jean's life. Fox News correspondent Casey Stegall reports.
Fox News.
Joining me now to talk more about this case is Ariana Goodman, an associate lawyer with the Dallas-based law firm Bell Nunley. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate your time. I know it's an extremely busy time for you, seeing you've been watching this case closely. Let's get right to it. As you know, Geiger took the stand on Friday, very emotional, saying she hated herself and that she wishes that she was the one who had taken the bullet. What kind of impact will that her testimony have on the jury, do you think? There's no question Geiger killed Botham Jean. That's not up for debate, really. The real question is whether a crime was committed, and her guilt or innocence will likely be determined, as you know, by the defense's ability to argue what's called the mistake of fact. Can you briefly explain what that is in the simplest of terms?
Sure.
Geiger's maintained all along, and you kind of touched on this a minute ago, that she mistook Jean's apartment as her own and that she thought he was an intruder. As you know, state law in Dallas allows people to defend themselves and their property. There's also a no duty to retreat. How important is that in this case based on what we know at this point? As you know, there's a strong perception that this was a police shooting. Geiger was in her uniform, but we should point out she was off duty. She was not responding to an emergency or pulling someone over. Yet the public perception is still that this was a white police officer who shot and killed an unarmed black man. And let's be honest here, people are watching how this plays out, right? Ariana Goodman, I know you're busy, but we appreciate you taking the time to join us on Arkansas Crime Watch. As you know, a lot of people are watching this case closely, as will we, but we do appreciate you taking the time to join us.
But we begin with my co-anchor, Kevin Kelly, who has been with the U.S. Marshals in Texas since the operation was launched. He brings us exclusive coverage of today's search efforts.
News certainly travels fast, especially in a small town like Royse City, Texas. Take a look. Operation Backtrack making the front page of the local newspaper. As for today, search teams and cadaver dogs back at it again, crisscrossing through wooded areas, open fields, and muddy streams looking for anything related to Brian Freeman, and that includes his remains. Take a look at what we shot earlier today. The search a bit different from yesterday's. Teams started at Ground Zero. That's where Freeman's truck was found abandoned 4 days after authorities say he murdered Lori Hanna inside her home in Ward, Arkansas back in March of 2017. U.S. Marshals believe he committed suicide somewhere in these woods. And that theory is based on two facts. First, every single lead Marshals have received and investigated over the past 2.5 years has led to a dead end. And secondly, his last known phone call to a female friend of his was made from this wooded area. And the phone call itself was very specific.
So when he made the phone call to a female acquaintance of his, he told her that he had done a horrible thing, said that he was somewhere in Texas, said he had abandoned his truck, said he'd walked away from it, had walked into a wooded area, and that he intended to kill himself. He then asked this person to say a prayer with him, which they did, and he made the comment, he said, "I hope God forgives me for this."
Teams were able to cover several of the remaining sectors of the search area today. In fact, while we were out, a cadaver dog did alert on this abandoned shack not far from where Freeman's truck was found, but it didn't result in anything. So far, 85% of the search area has been covered. Now tomorrow, teams will once again hit the ground running, covering the remaining 15% of the sectors that still need to be covered. and hopefully they will come across something that will give them an indication that Brian Freeman is out in those woods. We'll keep you posted on that. One interesting side note, while we were out today, tips were still coming in to the tip line. In fact, one lady called last night and said she saw Freeman at a local bar. Then again this morning, a waitress called the tip line saying she served him breakfast and that he went by the name Joe. Those two tips are fresh and will be thoroughly investigated. We'll keep you posted on that as well. In Royse City, Texas, Kevin Kelly, back to you in the studio. This is a serious situation, and we all need to be very mindful. We need to be proactive. We need to be smart in what we do and the people we come in contact with. Yesterday, the governor was talking about, travel restrictions for state employees that will be in effect for 60 days. He said that there will be no out-of-state travel without approval of cabinet secretaries, and that decisions will be made on a case-by-case basis. He also was concerned about upcoming travel plans by fellow Arkansans, especially over the spring break, urging people to rethink and reconsider every trip out of state, saying ask the following questions. Among them, are there confirmed cases in their destinations? Will there be large gatherings? When you return, will you have contact with elderly? Are you driving or are you using mass transit? Are there safer options out there? I know personally my daughter was scheduled to go to New York for a spring break trip. That trip canceled as a result of this. It's a serious situation, and we're watching it very closely. Our job as news reporters and as news stations is to give you the facts. The facts only. We do not want to spread fear. We do not want to spread misinformation or rumors. Our job is to report to you the facts. And so far, these are the facts that have been presented to us. You've been watching Governor Asa Hutchinson discuss the latest events involving the coronavirus. The governor saying at the very beginning that the last 48 hours have been a whirlwind. Let me bring you up to speed on the latest developments. Yesterday, the governor reported one presumptive case of COVID-19, that being down in Pine Bluff. That patient has been quarantined. 24 hours later, as we just heard, there have been 5 additional presumptive positives in the state of Arkansas. The governor saying he's not surprised by that, but it's also a signal to him and those of us here in the state of Arkansas to take action. The 4 counties he mentioned where those additional presumptive positives surfaced involved Saline, Jefferson, Pulaski, and Grant. And out of an abundance of caution, the governor said schools in those 4 counties will be closed for the next 2 weeks. He also reiterated that there may be more school closures down the road. The primary goal of this press conference today was to give the public information to bring us all up to speed on what is currently going on and what we can do as a state to take the necessary precautions to mitigate the spread of the coronavirus. As for those additional cases that have been talked about, those cases, those tests, if you will now be sent to the CDC for positive confirmation. We do not know how long that will take. As you can imagine, the CDC is conducting hundreds, if not thousands, of tests. So it's going to take some time before the CDC responds. The additional presumptive cases, Dr. Nate Smith with the Department of Health saying that those were not community transmissions, meaning these individuals weren't out and about and talking and shaking hands. Rather, 4 of those cases came through contact with the individual who was deemed to be positive down in Pine Bluff yesterday. Those individuals are now being quarantined in their house. They're not being hospitalized, and they're being monitored closely. A lot of moving parts today, and of course, Fox 16 and KARK are on top of it. We will have continuing coverage as this continues to develop. We'll have those high school closings for you on both websites, KARK.com and Fox16.com. And you can get the very latest right now. If you want, you can download the mobile apps. You'll find them in the Google Store or App Store. In the meantime, keep it here on Fox 16 as well as KARK. We'll have the very latest information for you on our upcoming newscasts and online. Thank you for watching. I'm Kevin Kelly. Have a good afternoon. A mother and her 4-year-old son murdered in their Camden home.
I keep waiting on them to walk in the door like they did every day. I want to touch her and hug her and kiss her and him too. It's just not right.
The alleged suspect nowhere to be found.
He just needs to own up for his actions because it's got to be eating him alive.
And a nationwide search to track him down. How bad do you want this guy?
As bad as anybody that we've ever gone after.
Is far from over. Take a good look at this man. His name is Jory Worthen, a 23-year-old from Bearden, Arkansas. If you've seen him, heard from him, or know where he is, call the number on your screen right now. Worthen is wanted on 2 counts of murder, the crime taking place on June 25th. Since that tragic day, his whereabouts have remained unknown. In this Arkansas Crime Watch exclusive, I sit down with the lead investigator who tells me the U.S. Marshals are hot on his tail and won't stop until he's found, dead or alive. When you hear the name Jory Worthen, what comes to mind?
Is the prime suspect in a heinous crime, and we look at Jory that way.
Randy Coyne with the Western District of the U.S. Marshals has been in law enforcement for 27 years. He says this man, 23-year-old Jory Worthen, is the most serious case he's ever worked.
If he, in fact, did what he's accused of doing, we want to get Jory off the streets.
On June 25th, the bodies of 20-year-old Alyssa Cannon and her 4-year-old boy Marshall Ponder were found murdered inside their home. Camden police quickly identified her boyfriend, Jory Worthen, as the prime suspect.
I keep waiting on them to walk in the door like they did every day. I want to touch her and hug her and kiss her and him too. It's just not right.
So where did Worthen go? Authorities believe he planned his escape long before anyone could find him or the bodies.
He definitely had a plan to go somewhere.
But where? Law enforcement would get their first clue a month later, 2,300 miles away from the crime scene.
The victim's car was found in Seattle, Washington. Do we know for certain that he drove it up there? No, we don't know that.
Not taking any chances, authorities quickly alerted media in surrounding states, who splashed social media with Worthen's photos. Hundreds of tips and possible sightings came pouring in, including one from as far away as Alaska.
We asked the deputies in Alaska to take a look at it, and we have not been able to confirm if that's him or not.
Law enforcement believes the break in the case will come soon, as long as an alert public knows what to look for. How critical of a role do his tattoos play in this case?
It's probably the key to catching him. The most telltale tattoo to me is the one under his right forearm, Matthew 7:6.
He also has a tattoo of a skull with wings on his chest and a tattoo of barbed wire on his left bicep.
He just needs to own up for his actions because it's got to be eating him alive.
I hope you don't take the coward's way out. I hope you get brought to justice.
With no confirmed sightings, there are rumors Worthen may have taken his own life.
I don't know that. I have no proof of that.
But it's a possibility.
It's certainly a possibility.
But Coyne also believes those rumors may just be a ruse to try and throw Marshals off his track. Do you feel like you're at a dead end?
I don't think we're at a dead end. Some cases just take longer to solve.
You confident you'll get him?
I am very confident of that. I am confident that we will find out where he is, one way or the other.
Police have received more than 500 tips in a number of different states, including Kansas, Texas, Louisiana, Alaska, and Washington, but still no confirmed sightings of this man Worthen. A $5,000 reward is being offered for information on his whereabouts. And get this, the Camden police chief offering $1,000 out of his own pocket to catch this guy. So if you can help find Jory Worthen, be sure to call the U.S. Marshals. For more information on Worthen, the search and the investigation itself, just log on to our website, fox16.com.